Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 368, Soul Freedom, and now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm also lovingly known as RCA. It is always my pleasure to welcome you to the show, and we have a beautiful show planned as always, and want to welcome also to the show with me my amazing producer, Mr. Sean Kilgore.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with our friend Cynthia Alice Anderson. This is episode 368. Today is, of course, Monday, July 7th, and we're talking about soul freedom today. So, Of course, just coming off of the 4th of July celebrations here in the States. I hope everyone had a safe and great celebration, summer celebration. But Here we are today, and we're going to talk about soul freedom, right?
And in addition, some of us celebrated Sean's birthday a few days ago.
Thanks. Yeah. My last year in my 40s. So
yeah, man.
Making it count. They're trying, just like all of us. All right, friends, before we get into the talk about soul freedom today, as always, we want to bring you This Week in Spiritual History. We're pausing to remember meaningful milestones from global spiritual traditions that still resonate with our hearts today. We're starting with July 7th, 1456, and a heroine's vindication, when Joan of Arc was acquitted. So on July 7th, 1456, a church tribunal officially declared Joan of Arc innocent of heresy, overturning the false verdict from 25 years prior. So imagine that, being executed for speaking your truth.
Wow.
And then only decades later, after already being gone, finally being cleared of any wrongdoing. So Joan's story reminds us that truth has a way of rising even after injustice has had its say.
Sean, all of these, I know we keep saying this, but I know our listeners must be feeling it too as you read them. It's like, okay, so it gives me hope to read this because it is true. Truth will rise. Truth will have its day.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, like history. I mean, not necessarily history repeating itself, but it's like the same lessons that we just seem to have not learned yet.
Right.
That we have to keep seeing over and over,
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons to look back is so we don't always repeat it so unconsciously. And I think that's what we're trying to do is, I think small groups really are trying to hold us down, and they seem to be the loudest right now. But so many people, including us here on the show, are about freedom of expression, freedom of self, freedom of soul, freedom of religion, freedom to be who you are, So These are the freedoms we all want and seek. And the truth is, I think there are more of us than we know about. But I love this look at history. I know you've got a couple of more there too.
Yeah, definitely. We're also talking about breaking barriers abroad. This happened July 7th, 1873. This is when Southern Baptist officially commissioned Lottie Moon to serve in China. Now, this was during a time when single women were rarely sent abroad. Lottie embraced the Chinese culture, language, and community and became a champion for the dignity and education of women. She has a bold legacy that she left, and that endures through the famous Lottie Moon Christmas offering, which supports missionaries worldwide and helps share love and care across cultures. And I'm going to repeat that: love and care across cultures. That's how she lived her life, she had this vision of global compassion, and she lived seemingly from what I can tell, her every day she lived that truth.
Oh, totally. And what a trailblazer. I mean, as we were talking earlier today, it made me think about the time, the mission work I did in Brazil, which was with the Baptist Church. Without Lottie Moon, I don't think that would have ever happened for me. And that was a game changer in my life and world. And it really inspired me to do the work I do today. So, and the biggest part of that experience was learning about culture, learning the language, being with the people. And wow, when we can do that, so much is learned. This divisiveness we're seeing now is just so heartbreaking and hurtful because it's not what we were designed to do and be,
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
We're also talking about Voice of Covenant. So this is the day, July 7th in 1647, that Thomas Hooker made his passing. So he was a renowned Puritan minister, and he passed away on his 61st birthday, which was July 7th. This is a man, Thomas Hooker, who believed that true leadership should come from the consent of the people, and that spiritual communities should shape how we live and govern together. His vision helped shape the founding of Connecticut and eventually laid the early groundwork for the democratic values that we see around the world today. And finally, we take a sweet pause for World Chocolate Day. Yay! Today is July 7th, World Chocolate Day, marking the moment that chocolate first arrived in Europe, we believe around 1550, so about 475 years ago, which seems young to me for chocolate. I would think chocolate was older than almost 500 years, but I don't know. You look good, chocolate. You look good.
You look good, chocolate. Yes, and we're big chocolate fans. Oh, I should mention, too, a shout out to my brother. It's his birthday today as well.
Oh, happy birthday. That's awesome. Yeah. And so, yes, so this is just a little delicious reminder that even in serious reflection, sweetness and pleasure are a part of our spiritual journey too.
Amen.
Yeah. So something to think about as you head into your weeks. This week, we are honoring brave voices, the ones who were silenced, the ones who are pioneering, and all those who are foundational. And a question for you to reflect on as you move forward: which voice or passion in your own life is calling to be heard? And what small steps could you take this week to let it be voiced with courage and kindness? This concludes This Week in Spiritual History for this week, July 7th. And now, friends, welcome officially to episode 368, Soul Freedom.
Soul freedom, my dear friends. This is one of my favorite topics. It may be my favorite topic because it touches everything else in life, to think about living from the soul. And, we talk so often about living from soul. We talk about our soul journey. We talk about our individual soul journey. We talk about being an individual soul and a collective soul. And I wanted to slow this topic down just a little today, and especially because we're having so many new viewers. I was looking recently at some of our YouTube shorts. We're having 2,000 views and more. And I want to make sure people are clear that not only are we Bible-based, but we also love to study other religious teachings and practices because we learn and grow from this. And especially there are some wonderful teachings about the soul that I've gleaned from some of the Eastern teachings in Hinduism and Buddhism, which are wonderful, wonderful philosophies and some of the oldest religions in the world. They predate Christianity, certainly. And yet Jesus spoke about it as well. When asked what was most important, Jesus said it was to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. In other words, your soul is different from your heart and mind. And so what is it? What is it? What is the soul? What is your soul? And I think about it, and this is from my collection of my spiritual teachers and my spiritual work over the years, that my soul is a link between God and my personal self and body. My soul is a link between God and my personal self and body. So that's true for you. That's what your soul is. It is a link between you and God and your personal self. And so some people would say maybe it's an individual fragment of God. But I know for some people that sounds like, oh, are you saying you're equal with God? Of course not. We're saying we have an aspect of God because God could never be separate from his creation. And there are many, many Bible verses about this. So those of you who know your Bible well know that even Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches, abide in me and I in you. We know from the book of Genesis, God says, I breathed into man's nostrils the breath of life. In other words, that life, that breath of life is our individual portion of the divine. Some would even say of the mind of God. But our soul also has individual memory. It has all of what we've ever experienced exists in our soul. It's like it is a total, what Charles Fillmore would say, Unity's co-founder would say, it is the sum total of your thoughts, feelings, belief, sensations, and ideas. So even emotion, which includes the sensate, right? The emotions would be very much a part of what is in your soul. And so we know that what we think about, what we believe, that our soul is eternal and that those beliefs exist within us and they are always with us. What we are not always aware of is that some of those memories, some of those thoughts and beliefs are sometimes unconscious. As a matter of fact, when thinking of the soul, the iceberg image comes to mind. And you could think of it this way, that we are 1/10 conscious of our soul and probably 9/10 unconscious. But that in fact, we are a soul, and the Bible tells us, as many other traditions do, our soul is eternal. And I bring the other traditions in. I think they're beautiful. I think they can teach us a lot. And because we hear a lot about soul in the Bible, I once knew how many times it was mentioned. Sean, that might be something fun to look up. It's like, I don't know, 326 times or something like that. But the soul is talked about often. But what the Bible doesn't tell us is what is contained in the soul. So we have to kind of glean from the scripture, from context. And then I find other denominations very helpful, or other religions very helpful in learning what is my soul. So my soul, did you look it up, Sean?
Soul appears in the Bible 432 times.
432 times. Yeah. That's great. Right. So it's not something RCA made up. It's not something that just the Hindus speak of. It's one of those things, as we like to bring up on the show, that is through virtually every religion and spiritual teaching I know. There is something beyond this physical body. And it's beyond, even as the scripture says, the heart and the mind, right? It is the soul, and that contains the emotion, and it even contains past life memories. It even contains past life memories. And so I've heard people say to me, if I mention past lives, and I've even said it myself early in my journey, people will say, I have enough to worry about now. Now I have to worry about past lives too. And what you start to learn as you grow and develop on the spiritual journey is that some of the past life memories might come through. I call them past life bleed throughs, where you'll have an emotion or you'll even have a thought that you think, I don't even know where that came from. And it is a stored memory. Remember, if our souls are eternal, it is a stored memory that's coming forward. And it usually comes forward into the light of day so that it can be healed, so that it can be transformed, transmuted, transcended, and brought into the light of God, and then help us release that old thought form and move into our own soul freedom. So we are both an individual soul, but we're also a part of the collective. For instance, you who are listening, me and Sean who are bringing the show, we were meant to be on this earth at this time together to do this work. How do I know it? Because that's what's happening now. So we are part of a collective soul that's trying to wake up. And there is a collective soul called the U.S., United States of America. There is also the collective soul of the Americas. So these are big, expansive ideas. But what we're working on today predominantly is our individual soul journey and knowing that there is a connection to the collective. Like often I've had people say to me in counseling, they have said things like, why was I born into this family? I'm so different from everybody else. And I say, that was a part of your soul journey that you decided way before you ever even got here. Because you had the soul freedom to choose to learn these lessons at such a time. So if you're here on planet Earth right now, it is because you were meant to be. It was because you are designed to be. And honestly, it is because I believe you chose to be. That as a soul, you wanted to be here at this time. And in our particular collective soul, we are seeking to wake up together. We're seeking to live a life on purpose. We're seeking to live from soul. And so the opposite of living from soul is really living from the personality, right? And so what we want to do is learn to, on a regular basis, on a daily basis, live from soul, and then in fact move into more soul freedom. In other words, we want to make really good choices and act in the best interest of our soul. For instance, if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to prosper, if you're trying to evolve, if you're trying to move into soul freedom and you're engaged in activities that are the opposite of that, if you want to go around and drink and smoke and do all that kind of stuff, that is the opposite of acting in the interest of your soul. That is devolving instead of evolving, right? And so what we're seeking to do, our listeners and our followers and those that support this show, what we're all trying to do is to wake up and live from our soul freedom. And to do that, we are taking time every day to meditate. We are seeking to observe ourselves. We call it moving into the observer self. And we do this sometimes through journaling, sometimes through meditation and visualization, where we can see the patterns of our behavior. So if we journal, we're journaling when we have a tough feeling, or we're journaling a situation that happened where we felt elevated or triggered. And then we look back and we see, is there a pattern I'm trying to see? Sometimes we call a minister or counselor, like what I do, or a therapist, and say, help me see this pattern so that I can release this connection to the past and move into more soul freedom. And so what we realize is that there are practices we can do on a very daily basis to move more into living from soul. And I want to repeat those again. It might be to pray or meditate every day, to take time to connect with the divine. It might be to begin journaling if something difficult comes up, and look through that journaling fairly regularly to see if there's a pattern. And that will help you move into the observer self, where you're actually looking at your very own behavior to see, are you sabotaging this situation? Are you helping to create this friction? Or are you inserting yourself a place you don't belong? Usually, if you're just in the situation and not going back and trying to observe yourself in it, you're going to keep repeating this pattern. We also learn that to work with our intuition, some people call it a sixth sense, and that's often, accessed through meditation of that daily prayer work and meditation, but that we can begin to work with the intuitive self more than just the physical mind. In other words, contacting the soul on a regular basis. My friends, I firmly believe that you who are listening to this right now know exactly what is yours to do, and you know exactly when and how to do it. That said, I think for all of us, we have to deal with blocks that come up. We have to deal with these old calcified beliefs. Sometimes the beliefs are childhood wounds that we, gathered over time. Sometimes, as I mentioned, they're past life things that are coming in ready to be healed. And so what we want to do is move into soul freedom by realizing our connection with God and realizing that we have a choice whether we move into soul freedom or not, because God has given us everything we need. And to remember, God's will for me is good. The scriptures say it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And what is that kingdom? Well, that kingdom is soul freedom. It's what Jesus knew so completely. So I'll say it again. God's will for me is good. It is up to me to choose to live the truth of my soul's freedom. So around this time every year, I do it around Independence Day, which, as Sean mentioned, for the United States is a very important time. And I'm always asking the question that goes beyond my country, but goes to the spiritual and to my individual soul's freedom. And that question is, if I could be free from anything, what would it be? And so I want you to ask yourself that same question. If I could be free of anything, what would it be? And allow yourself to breathe into this idea. If I could be free from anything, what would it be? If I could be free from anything, what would it be? And my friend, I think you already know the answer to this. You know, when I was asked this for the first time, probably 25 years ago, I was in a spiritual group, and I remember one of the people in the group said, I want to be free from fear. And the spiritual teacher there said, more specific. In other words, just saying fear is a cop-out. Everybody has fear. But what is the fear of? So let yourself think about that for a minute. If I could be free from anything, what would it be? And you don't have to overthink it, because I bet, as I said, I believe you 100% know what it is already. And I'll share with you what mine was so many years ago, even though I have a couple different ones I've been working with, and I work with this most every year since that time. So somehow being a minister in these holidays help keep it, top of mind. So I keep coming back to it because I want to move into soul freedom. And for me at that time, it was fear, yes, but the fear was from speaking my truth. I felt like I had something I wanted to say, but I was scared to do it. It's funny even to think about that now. But the follow-up question, once I named that, the follow-up question was, if I could be free from that thing, where would I be in 1 year? If I could be free from that thing, where would I be in 1 year? So think about that in relation to your own journey. If I am free from that thing, where will I be in 1 year? If I am free from that thing, where will I be in 1 year? And at that time for me, my answer was ministerial school, because I was about to apply and I was scared to apply. So it was very, very real and current for me at that time. So I want you to think about that for yourself. If I'm free from that thing, where will I be in 1 year? And for me, this question was life-changing, because even though I had moved to Kansas City to attend a ministerial school, I hadn't yet applied, and I had just finished taking the courses to be ready to apply. And it changed the course of my life, this question, because I had had a wonderful career as a musician. I was playing gigs, I was teaching, I was conducting a youth orchestra, I was assistant conductor of a community orchestra, I was teaching at a school. I loved my life and my career, but I kept feeling like I was being called into something else. But that fear had been standing in the way. One time I had tried to go into ministry in the Methodist Church, and I felt like I was not in alignment with some of their policies. And so I backed away and just kept teaching and working and playing and gigging and having a wonderful time, but feeling like there was more for me. And I love music. I think there's nothing better to do for somebody else. I just knew for me, this was my next step. And so I didn't want the fear to keep me from doing it. And once I realized that the fear was that strong, well, I knew I had to do it then. I knew I had to at least try and apply for ministerial school and see what happens. And so part of being willing to answer this question about if I could be free from anything, what would it be? It's like it is the willingness to believe that God loves me enough, that I am strong enough, that I am worthy enough, that I am capable of moving past this fear into the good God has for me. It's really the action of believing God's will for me is good. God's will for me is good. It is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom, right? It is up to me to choose to live the truth of my soul's freedom. So it's believing that this is so, just even asking this question. So friends, I want you to really work with this. I'm just going to say, just do it. Give yourself the gift of asking this question on a deep, deep level. If I could be free from anything, what would it be? And if I could be free from that thing, where would I be in 1 year? Where would I be in 1 year? And 1 year is a great time, a great length of time, especially as an adult, because releasing old calcified beliefs takes time. It's going to take meditation. It's going to take some self-awareness. It's going to take some probably journaling and being in that observer self. And then, my friend, a year goes by pretty quickly as an adult, I've noticed. And I think you are going to be surprised at the power you have to move into the good God has always had for you. I want you to be clear that you have always been and always will be connected to God. I want you to be clear that you are called to live from soul. As a matter of fact, it is a spiritual mandate given to us from the Master himself, that you are to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. So friends, as you move into more soul freedom, you are going to be able to access a higher love. You're going to be able to access self-acceptance and forgiveness. You are going to be able to be with others who may be different from you, who may think differently than you. You're going to be able to elevate yourself and live from a higher level of awareness, which is what Jesus had in mind for all of us. My friend, I hope you can ask yourself the tough question. If I could be free from anything, what would it be? And if I have that freedom, where will I be in 1 year? And my friend, I think you will be surprised. I think you will be amazed at the power you have to not only create good, but to act in your soul's best interest. I also know that literally the heavens support you as you do this work, that your soul is meant to grow and expand, and that as you rely on God, as you rely on this Christ Spirit, and as you do the work of the soul by connecting every day with Spirit, as you do the work of the soul by meditating and journaling and praying, as you seek to learn and grow and seek awareness, through maybe therapeutic work and journaling and the observer self, that you will be supported by the whole universe, that God himself, herself, will work in and through you to bring you into your soul's journey. So my friends, I want the best for you, and I'm going to be doing this work with you, as I always am. I believe if we're here on planet Earth right now, it is for such a time as this, and that it is for us to grow, prosper, and evolve, and ultimately to live our soul's freedom. So, my friends, I'm supporting you in this work. I'm going to be praying for you every day. I would love for you to send me a text message to let me know you're doing it. Feel free to reach out and say, this is the question I'm working with. If you would like, I will pray with you specifically on this piece you're working with. If you ask me to, I will pray for you every single day for a year. I absolutely have your back on this. I want to see you supported. I want to see you live from soul and to move into all the good God has for you. My friends, God's will for you is good. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, and that is living from soul. So I thank you for joining us today, my dear friend. As always, we are honored and blessed to be with you. We just feel a great sense of trust and responsibility in bringing you the best show we can. We're open to your suggestions and feedback, and we are honored to receive your financial support, which keeps us on the air. So, my dear friends, have a beautiful, beautiful day, a great week as you do the work of the soul, and blessings on the journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2025 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Sean Kilgore. A production of the Soulworks Group, Incorporated.